Hey, I'm Toasted, and if this isn't your first time here, you probably already know I have an unhealthy obsession with ranking things no one asked me to rank. This time, we're diving headfirst into something you probably haven't seen on YouTube. I hope nobody made video like this. I'm ranking the 20 best games ever made in Estonia, from worst to best, like every list. Now, before you ask, yes, Estonia does have a gaming scene. And no, it's not just dudes in saunas making Unity projects during winter blackouts, although that would explain half of these games. Over the last few months, I've played through, researched, and in some cases suffered through these titles. No real suffering here. You'll see indie gems, VR survival masterpieces, broken flash game tier disasters, and even a prehistoric revenge simulator where you literally choke to death on corpses. Because Estonia. If you enjoy these types of videos, there is a whole playlist on my channel where I rank games by engine, by country, by something else, I don't know, just check out my channel for rankings like this. So how did I rank these games? Well, as always, mostly based on my own experience and opinion. But I also peeked at user reviews, critic scores, most importantly what people on Steam say. So if your game isn't higher, don't cry. Or do, I'm not your therapist. And if you want early access to future videos, click that join button to become a channel member. You will get 1 week early access, your video suggestions jump to the top, and your name will appear in the credits, like a true legend who made this possible. There's also an official Toasted Gaming Discord server if you want to check it, link in the description below. Alright, so let's fire up the vodka-fueled review machine and find out which Estonian game clawed its way to the top. Let's go. This is what happens when you mix Terraria, Deep Rock Galactic, and vibes, but forget to give it a soul. You mine stuff, you blast aliens, you light up underground caves with flashy neon lights. It's all very indie core. The pixel art is slick, the feedback loop is okay, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Still, it's the kind of game that will hypnotize you at 1 AM when you're supposed to be sleeping or filing taxes. Solid, chill, but not the kind of blast that leaves a crater. It's chess, but with fog of war. You can't see your opponent's pieces unless they're in range. Basically, it's like regular chess, but drunk and paranoid. And it's actually a cool twist. It turns every match into a psychological thriller where you second guess everything, including your own IQ. Visually minimal, yes, but it's clean, and mechanically, it's surprisingly tense. Definitely a hidden gem if you're into mind games and hate being able to plan ahead. It suffers from limited content, but as a one-trick pony, it kicks pretty damn hard. A charming little Metroidvania that asks, what if Hollow Knight was less emotionally devastating and more into scrap metal? You play as a cute robot in a rusted out dystopia, platforming and slashing your way through robo-enemies with satisfying combat and adorable vibes. It's not groundbreaking, and let's be honest, it's riding hard on the please love me indie gamers energy, but it's polished, cozy, and it's fun. Like a warm bowl of retro futuristic soup. Could have used a few spicier ingredients, but hey, not everything has to make you cry, like Ori did. Have you ever played a game that felt like credits rolled right after the tutorial? Well, that's CraftCraft. This cozy, charming merchant sim has beautiful art, a lovely world, and even a pet owl cat. But just as things start getting interesting, it abruptly ends. There's promise of an endless mode coming, but right now, it feels more like a polished demo than a full game. Still, what's here is genuinely fun, and if they build on this foundation, it could become something special. Right now, it's a bittersweet gem. Imagine Stardew Valley, but instead of growing crops, you're brewing monk beer. Ale Abbey is a niche delight, a slow-paced tycoon game where you manage a monastery. You balance the books, brew legendary ales, and maybe even deal with theological crises. It's not for everyone, but it is for weirdos like me, who think managing medieval monks sounds like a great time. Quirky, calming, and just nerdy enough to feel unique. A surprisingly holy experience. This game is old enough to legally rent a car, and probably remembers dial-up internet. Roketz is a gravity-based 2D shooter that somehow made drifting with rockets a thing before Rocket League was even an idea. It's slick, fast, and had local multiplayer back in the 90s, meaning it probably ruined a few childhood friendships. Yeah, physics feel like you're controlling a fridge in zero gravity, but once you get used to it, it slaps. For an Amiga-era game, it holds up shockingly well, like a wine cooler that aged into actual wine. It's Blade Runner meets Studio Ghibli, and somehow doesn't suck. ENCODYA is a point-and-click adventure in a cyberpunk world where everything's grey, rainy, and probably smells like wet circuit boards. You play as a little girl and her clanky robot dad trying to survive in a capitalist hellscape. Relatable, honestly. Visually, it looks great, and story-wise, it's charming. But gameplay-wise, it's point-and-click game, so you either love that, or you're not gonna care about this game. Still, for fans of a genre, this one's a cozy little neon downer. This game feels like if David Lynch made Papers, Please. Centum drops you into bizarre interrogation rooms, surreal puzzles, and moments that make you question your own morality, or at least your reading comprehension. It's mysterious, cryptic, buggy in parts, but unlike anything else in the ranking. If you like games that confuse and consume you, this one's worth the notebook you'll fill trying to figure it all out. This is what happens when you put lo-fi horror, chaotic VHS energy, and liminal space dread into a blender and forget to put the lid on. Unsorted Horror is a bite-sized, unnerving, postmodern scream into the void. Being Petscop, but playable. It's short, but the atmosphere is thick and the ideas are fresh. You won't fully understand what just happened, but that's kind of the point. Highly recommended for horror fans who want weird over gore. You ever wanted to live out the fantasy of being a depressed 19th century painter, struggling with debt, loneliness, and creative failure? No? Well, too bad, cause this game makes you do it anyway. Artist Life Simulator is part game, part existential crisis machine. You'll mix paints, dodge death, and explore surreal fever dreams, all while trying not to starve in your cold, moldy apartment. It's weird, moody, and often slow as hell, but also kind of brilliant in its own twisted way. Think Darkest Dungeon, but instead of monsters, you're fighting emotional instability and poverty. So, basically real life. This is what happens when FTL says, "What if I had 10 times more systems and also made you cry more?" Shortest Trip to Earth is a brutal space roguelite where you manage your ship, your crew, your cat, your existential dread, everything. It's deep, strategic, and full of weird space nonsense like psychic cults and quantum coffee machines. The learning curve is a cliff, but once you get it, it's incredibly rewarding. Definitely one of the more underrated hardcore strategy games out there. Just don't get too attached to anyone, or anything, or even your own sanity. Welcome back to the cursed zone, where dreams go to die, and your VR headset becomes a panic attack machine. Into the Radius 2 improves on everything from the first game. The gameplay is tighter, the world feels even more dead inside. And now you can freak out in higher resolution. It's still creepy as hell, still punishes you for thinking you're safe, and still has that signature "what if Stalker was in VR and hated you" vibe. It's early access, but it's already better than most finished VR games. Honestly, if this is what Estonian horror looks like, I don't want to know what their comedies are like. Imagine Robinson Crusoe, but in VR, and the Iceland wants you dead. Bootstrap Island is all about survival, realism, and finding out just how unprepared you are for anything that isn't heated and delivered by courier. You chop coconuts, throw spears, yell at the sky, and try not to die of thirst while wearing a VR headset that's fogging up like a sauna. It's still in development, but even now, it's one of the most immersive survival experiences out there. And let's be real, watching people die to seagulls in VR is peak content. If this game ever gets multiplayer, it will end friendships faster than Monopoly. You play as Grim Reaper, but make it corporate. Stamping papers, deciding who lives or dies, just trying to impress your skeleton boss while listening to jazz and spiraling into existential dread. It's Papers, Please meets Good Omens, with just a dash of Wes Anderson if he was really into skulls. It's dark, funny, stylish, and occasionally hits you with actual moral dilemmas. Like whether or not to let Karen from accounting live another day. Honestly, more games should let you kill people from a spreadsheet. This is the one that started it all, the original VR anxiety simulator. Into the Radius throws you into a post-apocalyptic exclusion zone full of weird anomalies, invisible monsters, and constant dread, like Chernobyl, but with motion sickness. The realism is what makes it shine. You manually reload every magazine, check every bullet, and cry every time you drop your only flashlight into the void. It's brutal, immersive, and exactly the kind of game you recommend to friends when you want to scare them out of buying a headset. If Half-Life Alyx is the polished VR blockbuster, Radius is the grimy survival horror cousin who lives in a shed and eats batteries. This is the game that single-handedly raised Estonia's gaming GPD in the 90s. SkyRoads is fast, floaty, simple, and somehow more addictive than anything on your phone in 2025. You're a blocky space car jumping across colorful space highways with zero plot, zero brakes, and 100% heart attack potential. And guess what? It still holds up. The gravity system is slick, the controls are tight, and the soundtrack slaps harder than it has any right to. If you're not a SkyRoads kid, you probably didn't grow up booting games from a floppy disk in a freezing living room. And I feel bad for you. A desktop game that sits quietly at the bottom of your screen while you work, and somehow ends up stealing your heart. Rusty's Retirement is the definition of wholesome background gaming. It's relaxing, satisfying, and yes, cute as hell. Farming has never been so chill. While it does slow down in the late game and eventually burns out, the first dozen hours are pure joy. If you've ever wanted your productivity to coexist with cozy vibes, this is your dream. This is what happens when someone takes Doom, Stalker, and a haunted microwave and blends them into a top-down nightmare. Teleglitch is brutal. You die fast. You run out of ammo faster. And if you're not paranoid by level 2, you're already dead. It's glitchy, pixelated, and it's all on purpose. But beneath the chaos is an incredibly tight roguelike shooter with deep mechanics and a sense of atmosphere that punches above its weight. It's cult classic for a reason. Just don't expect forgiveness, or saves, or mercy. Russian roulette, but in a VHS tinted hell club, where the bouncer is a skeleton and your opponent is clearly not blinking enough. Buckshot Roulette takes one simple idea. What if you played Russian roulette with horror items? And turns it into one of the most intense 20-minute games you'll ever play. It's stylish, terrifying, and the kind of game that'll have you screaming at your monitor like it owes you money. Every round is anxiety incarnate. Every decision is sweaty. And the twist mechanics? Pure evil. Is it short? Yes. Is it shallow? Maybe. But does it slap harder than your dad during Uno night? Absolutely. And finally, you knew it. You felt it. Nothing else even comes close to the unhinged, philosophical, disco-drenched fever dream that is Disco Elysium. You're a washed-up detective with brain damage, broken morals, and a hangover sent from hell, trying to solve a murder while arguing with your necktie and flirting with communism. It's not just a game. It's literature disguised as a breakdown. The writing is god there. The world is fully realized, and every playthrough turns you into a different kind of beautiful, pathetic mess. It's the greatest game ever made in Estonia, and arguably one of the best games ever made anywhere. All that from a country with less than 2 million people. And that's the end of our deep dive into Estonia's, as you can see, indie game scene. Turns out there's a lot more going on up there than just saunas and digital ideas. Maybe one day I'll explore other countries too. Latvia, my country Lithuania, Finland, who knows? But for now, this was Estonia's moment. And I've been to Estonia once, for a few days, in Tallinn, great country. And hey, if you're a developer from Estonia and your game wasn't featured in this video, maybe it wasn't good enough for top 20. It could still be a good game. Or maybe I just missed it somehow. Feel free to shamelessly plug it in the comments below. That's right, Estonia only. Everyone else, your time will come. Well, if I ever make more videos like this. While you're down there in the comment section, let me know. Which positions would you change? Which game should have been higher? Which one shouldn't even be on the list? And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop suggestions for what kind of videos you'd like to see next. Engine rankings? Weird game deep dives? Maybe more country-specific game scenes? Thanks for watching, and to all the Estonian devs, keep making weird, creative, beautiful stuff. You're doing great.